application and star 550 star 5 hash for Business Daily Today. Terms and conditions apply.
The jury has decided. The Kenya Film Commission is delighted to announce the shortlisted 20 nominees for the third edition of My Kenya, My Story mobile phone film competition. Join the commission on Wednesday, 17th June for the nominees unveil live on NTV from 7:30 p.m. and get to know who scoops the top prize of 200,000 shillings during the award ceremony slated for 30th June 2020. Kenya Film Commission. Film Kenya. Capture Africa.
This is Fact Finder from the BBC.
More Africans are going online, but how do they access information with low speeds and internet shutdowns? A Kenyan MP wants to police Facebook and WhatsApp groups due to offensive content online. So, is your phone listening to you? Myth or fact? We'll find out.
Our guest today is the first Kenyan fashion designer to be featured in Vogue magazine.
Hand wash was getting sold out, sanitizers were getting sold out, masks were getting sold out, and then I'm like, what about the people that live in Kibera? Right now, we're giving out like more than 7,000 for free, all for free. Maybe in Runda there, you had gone to dance somewhere, and then somebody's phone get lost. The first people are like, yo, this guy from Kibera.
This is NTV.
Well, a very good afternoon to you. Thank you so much for joining us. You're watching NTV1. My name is Zainab Ismail. We have all the stories making headlines across the country and beyond. The national COVID-19 cases in the country have now reached 3,457 with 100 fatalities. The surging numbers come against a backdrop of a lack of test kits. Now today, the Cabinet Secretary of Health, Mutahi Kagwe, is expected to give a brief from Othaya Hospital in Nyeri County, and our very own Melita Oletenges is now joining us live with an update. Melita?
Yes, indeed, Zainab, the Cabinet Secretary for Health, Mutahi Kagwe, is expected right here at the Othaya Hospital anytime from now, where he will be making the national briefing, COVID-19 briefing from this particular hospital. Remember, this comes in line with the Ministry of Health measures to ensure that each county is actually prepared to battle this menace. Now, the numbers continue to surge even against the backdrop of the country lacking kits and a pile-up of samples. And of course, these are some of the issues that we are expecting the Cabinet Secretary will be addressing today. Allow me to speak to the Deputy Governor of Nyeri County, Caroline Karugu, just to tell us the preparedness of this county and of course how the county is trying to push for this facility to be an exclusive facility for the patients, for COVID-19 patients. Thank you so much for joining us. Perhaps how is the preparedness of the county so far?
Thank you very much, Melita. I think we're doing well, of course, with baby steps. Learning also from what's been going on in other counties, especially those that are mainly affected, like Nairobi. We have an isolation center, we have a quarantine center, we have about 7 operational ICU beds, and we today, I think, and you'll hear the announcements, we'll be announcing the collaboration between county government and this level 6 hospital, which we are very happy, by the way, to host here in Nyeri County. So I think we are day by day getting more ready, seeing as we just had the first few cases a few weeks ago, and of course we have the sensitization programs. I think it's also good for me to say that we have continued to really enhance our relationship with this level 6 hospital. Today we will be receiving also donations from AMREF into this hospital. We have received as a county government donations from the level 6 hospital in our county referral hospital to beef up on the bed space. The other thing that we are looking at is actually looking at a proper hospital, setting up a proper hospital so that we can use it as an isolation center if these cases mushroom like they promised to do. So I don't want to say with certainty that 100% we are ready, but every day we are growing our preparedness step by step. Yes.
Thank you so much, Deputy Governor of Nyeri, Caroline Karugu. They are saying that, they are actually concentrating on improving the bed capacity in Nyeri County. This is in line with what the President said, that all counties should be prepared, and this includes setting up hundreds and hundreds of beds to ensure that they are ready to contain this particular disease. But of course, we will be keeping an eye on different things. Also, remember, there has been a widespread of the disease in the prisons, and this is particularly a huge concern. Also looking at how the government is trying to also make sure that the kits are available in order to continue conducting the mass testing. But from here in Othaya, back to you in studio.
All right, thanks Melita Oletenges from Nyeri County. Well, majority of Kenyans are opposed to the proposed reopening of schools, even as the government prepares to open learning institutions from September. This is according to a recent study by research and consulting firm Infotrack, which showed 70% of Kenyans opposed the idea. Fears of a spike in infections at 41% and the risk of children at 21% tops the list of concerns. The observations come as the government, through the Ministries of Education and Health, work on measures for a potential reopening of schools on September 1st. President Uhuru Kenyatta instructed the Minister of Education to announce a revised school calendar in mid-August. Meanwhile, a majority of 59% of Kenyans are in support of reopening places of worship. However, the support to reopen the places of worship is considered higher in urban settings at 64% in comparison to rural areas, whose backing sits at a lower 57%. On Friday, Interior Cabinet Secretary Fred Matiang'i, along with Health Cabinet Secretary Mutahi Kagwe, jointly appointed an interreligious council chaired by Catholic Archbishop Anthony Muheria to develop reopening protocols. Meanwhile, residents of Limuru town have raised concerns that they were not considered in the restriction of movement order. They say the town is almost grinding to a halt, citing 8 roadblocks which restrict movement of people. They're now appealing to the government for some ease in restrictions.
For the past few months, movement of Limuru town residents has become unbearable. At the many roadblocks, residents are stopped and screened in their cars, while others are forced to walk to their destination. With many of the residents relying on the capital city for business, their livelihoods are threatened since they cannot access the city.
Wakati President alisema cessation of movement iwe eased ama iwe iangaliwe, tulipitishwa na tukaambiwa tunaweza enda Nairobi. So tuliweka magari insurance, tumelipa Nairobi County parking fees, Kiambu parking fees and all those, na tumeripea magari zetu.
The residents further question why the cessation of movement was particularly strict in Limuru town.
As we speak, Limuru is completely locked down. More lockdown than Mombasa Old Town, lockdown than Kawagore, lockdown than Isiri. What is the problem with Limuru? We have about 8 roadblocks which are blocking Limuru town from the rest of the world. We have one at Mutarakwa, one here at Tironi, the other one at Aprants, the other one at Sasini, on your way to Kiambu, the other one at Kentimea, the other one at Kabuko, the other one at Gecha, Nazareth. There is another roadblock.
The residents further say that since the Tigoni Level 4 hospital was converted into an isolation facility, they can no longer receive adequate health care at the facility for other ailments. They are now appealing to the president to ease some of the restrictions to enable them earn a living. Gena Kirori, NTV.
Now, fishermen in Lamu County are counting losses due to the coronavirus pandemic. The fishermen say the demand for fish has decreased in the past 4 months. They say since the outbreak of the disease, demand for fish has dwindled due to the ban on movement and closure of borders. Kevin Mutai from Mombasa with more details.
The fisheries sector has also been hit hard by the coronavirus pandemic. Lamu fishermen are now raising concern over the unprecedented tough times. Some of the restrictions put in place by the government to stem the spread of the virus has taken a toll on them, with reports that the ban on movement to other counties such as Mombasa has affected the demand for fish.
Sahi kulingana na janga la corona umezorota kiasi kikubwa, na vile vile pia kufungua mipaka kwa sababu tunatarajia samaki wengi kutoka nchi jirani ya Somalia ambao tunachukua samaki wengi kama 75% tukipeleka soko ya Mombasa, na imeajiri watu wengi sana, lakini kulingana na mipaka kufungwa, kwa hivyo uchumi umezorota kiasi kikubwa sana.
Deep sea fishermen have now resorted to selling their catch such as tuna, prawns, crabs and even lobsters at throwaway prices in the local markets to at least meet their basic need.
Itabidi vijana wote waingie kwa mahadharati kwa sababu hawana kazi nyingine wataenda kufanya.
Ni boti 24 ambao zimeajiri baharia karibu kila boti watu 6 mpaka 7. Vile vile pia kuna wale mahamali ambao pia hutegemea hizo boti kuteresha mzigo kupakia kwenye hizo truck za kupeleka Mombasa. Kwa hivyo ni imeajiri wasipungua watu 1000 ama 2000 kwa biashara ya samaki.
The closures of hotels across the coastal strip has also contributed to the loss of market. The export market is also affected due to travel restrictions globally.
Tumefungiwa kila sehemu na tuambiwa kwa sababu ya corona, lakini tuaona marungi yanapita katika bahari yetu, yanapita sehemu zetu, yanakwenda kupelekwa Somalia, hayaonekani kwa na corona.
They are worried about the uncertainties ahead and the impact the situation could have on the economy. Kevin Mutai, NTV, Mombasa.
Now, hundreds of families living in camps in various parts of Tana River, Garissa and Lamu counties have received relief food and non-food items. More than 48,000 residents from at least 11 villages have been displaced by the floods after their villages were submerged and roads cut off. Layla Mohammed has more.
The devastation of residents living in the Tana Delta is still visible. Several weeks after heavy rains began to pound the area and forcing the Tana River to burst its banks, those affected are still living in camps with dwindling food reserves. The waters of the Tana are still covering much of the land. The weatherman is predicting more rainfall in the next few days. The affected residents can only wait on the government and donors to keep their families going in these tough times.
Tunashukuru pia wafadhili na serikali vile wanazidi kutusaidia. Wazidi kusaidia hii wa Kenya wako na shida zaidi. Shamba yao imefagiliwa na maji, mifugo ndio hiyo. Mambo ya manyumba mnaona ile uharibifu imefanyika. Mambo ya shule ndio hiyo. Kuna shida sana na watu wamekuwa cut off, barabara yote angalia barabara ni ya mara. Wamekuwa cut off kabisa.
For a fifth week, police helicopters have landed in camps where residents whose homes have been marooned by flood waters are residing at the moment. The helicopters deliver aid to residents in Garsen town, Laluma and Moa villages in Lamu County, and Kulesa and Mandigo villages in Tana River County, which can only be accessed by air or boat.
Sisi Lamu ndo tunapata matatizo. Kijiji kama hiki cha Laluma mnajionea nyewe nyumba ziko ndani ya maji. Rais alijitolea baada 2018 mafuriko akajenga manyumba. Hayo manyumba pia ya Red Cross yalojengwa through udhamini wa Rais Uhuru pia nayo yameingia kwenye maji.
Hii maji imetuathiri sana, hata hatuna manyumba sahi. Hatuna manyumba, hatuna chochote sisi.
Serikali ina haja kubwa kuangalia maslahi ya watu hawa, hasa watu wa Tana River na Lamu wamekuwa wameathiriwa pakubwa sana. Kwa hivyo sisi tunaomba serikali waangalie kwa undani ili watu hawa wapewe nafasi katika maendeleo.
Upstream in Garissa, More than 200 families who are still living in the temporary camps have benefited from assorted non-food items donated by the Kenya Red Cross and UNICEF. Garissa County Commissioner Meru Mwangi said part of the donations will go into the prevention of COVID-19. He urged the residents to adhere to the Ministry of Health protocols.
Tuweze kuboresha huduma kwa wananchi wa Garissa na tuboreshe hii area hasa upande wa security na upande wa ushirikiano. The multi-agency strategy is the way to go. Tushirikiane kila moja na tufanye kazi kuhakikisha huduma imefikia mwananchi vilivyo.
Ndio kambi ya mwisho ambayo tutawapatia non-food items na tutakuwa tunaingia kwa recovery period. Kwa hii recovery period ni wakati wa kufanya assessment. Tumepanga na county commissioner na hiyo assessment itaanza mwaka maybe wiki ijayo.
The food donated is expected to cover the families for more than 2 weeks before other measures are put in place. Leila Mohammed, NTV.
Now, Kirinyaga Senator Charles Kibiru has asked the Senate to convene a full plenary to discuss the impeachment of Governor Anne Waiguru. The senator argues that a full house would ensure that justice is served not just to the governor but to the people of Kirinyaga County as well. Kibiru, who spoke alongside a group of MPs from the county, says a committee hearing may be compromised by people keen on saving the governor, who has been accused of gross misconduct, abuse of office and misuse of public funds. Kibiru spoke days after Senate Majority Whip Irungu Kangata said the House Business Committee had resolved to try the governor through a committee as opposed to a full plenary, a matter that is set for debate on Monday. Waiguru was impeached last week by MCAs who accused her of presiding over graft in the county.
Hili jambo sio jambo la kisiasa ya 2022. Kwa sababu kuna watu wanataka kuingisha siasa ya 2022, kuingisha siasa za watu binafsi. Hapa ni jambo ambalo already lishatimizwa na wajumbe wa Kirinyaga County na wakapitisha hoja yao ndio iweze kujadiliwa kule Senate.
Ni shida kubwa kwetu tukiwa viongozi. Kama hii kesi itaenda kukatwa na watu 12 ambao watajifungia kwa boardroom ama 11, wakati hii kesi waseme hii na hii, huenda ikatuletea madhara katika kaunti yetu ya Kirinyaga. Na kama mnavyojua, kaunti yetu ya Kirinyaga imekuwa ni kaunti ya amani tangu zamani.
Watu wengi over 80% wanasema wangetaka hii mambo ya gavana Waiguru isikizwe ni seneti yote, sio ile committee, select committee ya watu 11. Kwa sababu wangetaka pia hii mambo ikiendelea wajionee kwa runinga, waangalie, wasikize, na ndio pia wataona haki imetendeka. Na tumesema si mara ya kwanza, itakuwa mara ya kwanza Senate kusikiza malalamishi ama malalamishi kutoka County Assembly.
Kienda plenary, mtu aende ajitetee, gavana akae hapo, ma MCAs wakae hapa, waulizwe maswali na kila mtu kwa Senate. Wajitetee, evidence ipeanwe, ile suluhisho ama ile vile watakata ama vile watavote, watu wa Kirinyaga watakubali. Wacha tuende plenary, na hivyo ndivyo watu wa Kirinyaga wamesema.
Well, the tourism industry has been among the worst hit as the pandemic suspends travel, starving many countries of the much-needed tourism dollars. Will the industry recover? Well, this Sunday, NTV's Zainab Wandati examines the impact of the pandemic on the Masai Mara ecosystem and tells us how, amid the crisis, the wildlife is still thriving. Here's a preview of her feature Running Wild that airs tonight at 9 p.m.
I can say now, if you go to the Mara, you'll have an explosive game drive. The best scenery ever.
Sisi ni watu wanategemea wasungu. Tunashona.
With the coronavirus, tourism disappeared through the window. All the lodges, camps, tourist facilities, safari services just collapsed.
Kwa siku nilikuwa natengeneza hata kama 5,000 hivi. Penye hatuna wasungu, tunategemea msaada.
Leo tuko manyumbani wote kwa sababu ya coronavirus.
There has never been a time like this in the history of the Masai Mara game reserve.
Running wild. Well, you definitely do not want to miss that tonight with Zainab Wandati. Let's take a short break. We'll be back with much more.
Pembe Flour, your most trusted quality brand for over 3 decades, has a new look now. This new pack is available in all leading supermarkets and outlets. It's still the same flour. Great taste, so you can cook and bake all you love with Pembe Flour. Pembe yangu ni poa.
Sonadol Extra imetengenezwa kwa njia spesheli kupambana haraka na maumivu ya kichwa, mwili na hata meno. Sonadol Extra, hakika maumivu yakizidi, pata ushauri wa daktari.
Oya cheki, kuna vile sasa muziki manze, kuna vile inajipa manze, yani na cheki haimaanishi tu tunajibamba, yani very regular.
Kitu ya muhimu kwanza ni kujua hali yako ya status ya HIV.
Kwa hapa hivi tuwapeleke na Rieng, tujue venye manzi tutasaidiana, si kama vijana. Na kwa unaogopa kwenda pale hivi kwa clinic, unaweza pitia pale hivi kwa chemist ya mtaa, uitishe a self test kit, na wanauza 500 bob only. Unajitestia tu mtaani, unajua hali yako.
Manze na ukiweza patikana nayo, yani uko positive manze, usiogope. Kuna madawa yani jo, kuna counseling manze, unaweza kula fit yani, alafu unaweza piga bado ma exercises kiasi hivi. Na kama nyewe manze ukiweza patikana yani hauna manze, usiasi tu unaenda kutafuta tena.
Cheki. Ukiweza abstain.
Lakini maji yakizidi unga,
wrap it before you tap it.
La bila gloves haiwezi. Rieng ni kujijua.
Unapoendelea kujikinga kutokana na HIV, tafadhali zingatia taratibu zote za serikali za kujikinga na virusi vya corona.
Afya bora, maisha bora. Jipime, jiinue.
Well, thank you so much for staying with us. You're watching NTV at 1. Now, Meru MCAs have slammed Agriculture Cabinet Secretary Peter Munya for holding political meetings disguised as government duties. The MCAs have asked the CS to keep off politics, arguing that it was too early. Naoma Sampao has more.
55 members of Meru County Assembly read the riot act to Agriculture CS Peter Munya over his attempts to hold a political meeting in the county.
Chairman Agriculture.
The CS had allegedly invited some leaders to attend a meeting to discuss development in Meru without involving the governor and the county leadership.
I am very sure my party leader, who is President Uhuru, will not come to Meru and isolate the governor. The governor has to be present in any meeting that is discussing development.
The MCAs have accused the cabinet secretary of using his position to advance his political agenda.
In other counties, when the CS is visiting, is consulting the governors, the deputy governors, and the CECs. But when it comes to Meru here, is not even having a courtesy to consult with the governor or the CEC, who are the implementers of policy.
He was in the Rakanidhi yesterday. He was with Mudhomi Joki, who is the governor of the Rakanidhi. Why in Meru can't he involve the governor of Meru if it's something of interest or of importance to Meru about agriculture that is bringing in these counties?
The leaders have called on President Uhuru Kenyatta to caution the cabinet secretary to keep off matters of politics and deliver on his development agenda.
The CS is our son in Meru, but matters of Meru, he was not appointed to serve Meru only. He was appointed to serve the whole country,
And the matter of Meru should not be an excuse. If you want to come and play politics, resign, come on the ground, let's face each other.
The MCAs have also accused the Cabinet Secretary of playing politics with the Mirror Fund. Nayoma Sampao, NTV.
Now, over 360 inmates in Kiambu GK prison received COVID-19 mitigation donations from the Judicial Service Officers, Law Society of Kenya and Friends of the Courts under the Better Together initiative. Speaking during the handing over of face masks, sanitizers, soap and rolls of toilet papers, Kiambu Senior Principal Magistrate Stella Atambo said the donations should help inmates keep COVID-19 at bay. Atambo, however, says the country needs to step up measures for rehabilitation of inmates so as to integrate them into society upon release. Kiambu LSK chapter donated computers and televisions to the offenders, which they can use for their online cases.
Remember, they are vulnerable. They are behind bars. They're in remand. Some of them are waiting for their cases, have been waiting, which are going on. Some of them are convicted. What happens? How do we treat the vulnerable people in our society?
But on Monday, the LSK Kiambu chapter will be giving them a laptop and a screen so that those ones who wish to change their plea can be able to change their plea. And those ones who are on defense case, they can be able to offer their defense and their cases are concluded.
Meanwhile, the Kenya Women Microfinance Bank and Polytanks and Containers Kenya have donated hand-washing units in a bid to help fight the COVID-19 pandemic. The hand-washing units will be distributed to police stations, chief camps, assistant chief camps and prison facilities across the country. Each hand-washing unit comprises a 60-litre tank with a sink, a soap dish and a stand. Local administration has in the recent past received increasing focus in the fight against COVID-19 owing to the exposure of officers while going about their day-to-day duties. And Irish potato farmers in some parts of Molo and Kuresoi are staring at losses after bacterial wilt infected their crops. The farmers are now seeking government's intervention to save their main source of income.
Farmers have resorted to uprooting the withered crops to avoid the spread of the bacterial wilt. Bacterial wilt makes the crop wither. In potatoes, the disease occurs immediately the crop starts to flower.
Viazi kikauka hivyo hakuna matarajio ya kuvuna kwa sababu ikitoa tu maua inakauka yote na haina chakula yote ndani. So tunatarajia tu hasara.
Tumekuwa na mvua kubwa na kama vile unajua huu ugonjwa unasababishwa na bacterial wilt na ambao inaweza kuloweka ndani ya maji, ni inamaanisha ya kwamba maji inaweza kutoka kwa mmea huu hadi mmea mwingine. Na kwa vile sasa maji imekuwa mingi, tunaamini ya kwamba ni mchanga wa juu ukiwa infected, maji yanaweza kutelemusha infection hadi kwa mimea mingine ambao yuko kwa mteremko.
The crop disease had been reported in Molo, Kuresoi, Kamwaura, Sitiot and Mau Summit. The farmers, concerned about a poor harvest, are wondering why the government has gone silent on them.
Ugonjwa umeenea sana na ninashindwa ni kwa nini, na tuko na ADC hapa Molo wenye wanatuuzia mbegu bei kali, lakini hawakuji kutuangalilia mashamba yetu. Ninashindwa kama haja yao ni pesa.
The farmers are now encouraged towards better farming practices in a bid to mitigate the situation, at least for the coming planting seasons.
Crop rotation hii inafanya kwa miaka 5 hadi 7 ndio ule ugonjwa uweze kuwa umeisha, na kama ni kufanya crop rotation unafanya na mimea ambao si ya familia moja na viazi, mimea kama capsicum, mimea kama nyanya, mimea kama managu, na kama ni mbegu tunahimiza mbegu apate kutoka kwa certified seed multipliers.
Irish potatoes are grown in at least 15 counties. Ruth Sarmoi, NTV.
An application by local scientists to the National Biosafety Authority seeks to have the government give the green light to commercial production of genetically modified cassava. The scientists argue that the genetically modified crop is resistant to cassava brown streak disease and could go a long way in boosting food security. Gabriel Kudaka with the details.
At Tangakona Commercial Village in Busia, we meet Catherine Otaga at her small-scale cassava processing plant. Catherine has been processing cassava for over 10 years now, but the quantity she receives from farmers are now dwindling due to the invasion of diseases such as cassava mosaic and cassava brown streak disease.
When we are bringing our cassava here from our farmers, we use a pickup. Normally, we use a pickup. And that a pickup, I lose 257 kgs. That is what I will remove aside per each pickup.
It is due to such challenges that local scientists developed a genetically engineered cassava, which they say is resistant to cassava brown streak disease, a major challenge to quality and better yields.
The root itself is affected by the brown streak. It changes the color from what we call the white or cream into browning. It is destroyed and it can no longer be consumed either by animals or human beings.
This is a very important achievement in that the farmers will be able to access cassava that is resistant cassava brown streak, which is one of the biggest constraints in cassava production.
The National Biosafety Authority is currently receiving submissions from the public for the environmental release of the disease-resistant cassava amidst the challenges posed by the COVID-19 pandemic.
Our focus is really to audit, to review, and to evaluate whether the data that they've submitted satisfies our very stringent conditions in terms of food and feed safety.
So if we diversify our dietary habits in line with our agroecological zones, I think we have plenty of food.
And with this project, the country is now emerging as a pace setter in Africa in terms of agricultural research. Gabriel Kudaka, NTV.
All right, thanks, Gabriel. Now, the Port of Mombasa has reported unprecedented turnaround time in offloading and loading vessels, signaling enhanced efficiency at the port. Container carrier MV Cosco Yinko docked on Friday morning at berth 21 and completed discharge and loading operations late this afternoon. In the past, such an exercise would take days, a fact that has perennially undermined Kenya's position as a logistics and trade hub. Kenya Ports Authority crane operator George Ominde attributed the improved performance to a great coordination amongst the various players in the whole cycle and right attitudes. Kenya Ports Authority Acting Managing Director Engineer Rashid Salim congratulated the staff for their dedication and teamwork, which he attributed to the splendid ship performance. Now, Gateway Mall management has blamed the security issues befalling the mall on constant intimidation of victims who end up withdrawing cases from court. The mall, located along Mombasa Road, has been on the receiving end of criminals posing as customers. The criminals break into customers' vehicles to steal valuables. When criminals are arrested and taken to court, victims opt to withdraw the charges. In the last 1 month, 5 notorious criminals were captured on CCTV while breaking into different cars. The criminals keep changing their tactics to avoid arrest. The mall management says that they have intensified security and police officers have also been deployed.
Recruiting well-trained and security personnel who are well-versed with security issues. Criminals are also evolving and changing tactics. So based on, we have continuously upgraded our security systems to cope and be able to cope with the changing trends that the criminals are using.
We've had a female criminal who was previously arrested, and actually in the last week she was also arrested. Mostly the people we've been arresting are repeat offenders.
Now, to other news making headlines globally, China reported 57 new cases of coronavirus today, the highest daily number of infections in months, offering a second wave warning to the rest of the world as many countries prepare to reopen. The sharp resurgence in domestic infections has rattled China, where the disease emerged late last year but has largely been tamed through severe restrictions on movement that were later emulated across the globe. It also provides a bleak insight into the difficulties the world will face in conquering COVID-19, even as countries in other parts of the world, including Europe, prepare for a gradual reopening of borders. Now, Burundi's President-elect Evariste Ndayishimiye visited Ntare House, the president's official residence, on Saturday and signed a book of condolence opened for the late President Pierre Nkurunziza. Ndayishimiye's visit to the presidency came just a day after the Constitutional Court ordered his immediate swearing-in following the sudden death of Pierre Nkurunziza on Monday. Pierre Nkurunziza, who had led the country since 2005, was due to hand over power in August to Ndayishimiye, but his sudden death forced the cabinet to seek the court's interpretation of the transition laws. Well, a police chief in the United States city of Atlanta resigned on Saturday after an officer fatally shot a black man during an arrest on Friday night, injecting fresh anger into the ongoing protests against racism and police brutality against black people in the country. Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms announced Erica Shields' resignation hours before protesters blocked an interstate highway in Satellite, the fast food restaurant where the 27-year-old Rayshard Brooks was killed. The fresh protests come even as the U.S. faces a historic reckoning of systemic racism, with mass civil unrest ignited by the killing of another African-American man, George Floyd, by the police late last month. All right, let's now take a look at stories making headlines in the world of sports. Brian Otwal is here for that. Brian?
Thank you so much, Zainab. And we start from England, where two Premier League clubs on Saturday revealed that two individuals had tested positive for coronavirus, with rock-bottom Norwich City confirming an unnamed player is one of them. Norwich are due to resume their battle for survival on Friday with a home game against Southampton. The player and the other individual who has not been named are the only two cases from 1,200 tests taken on Thursday and Friday. Meanwhile, when the 100-day wait for Premier League football comes to an end on Wednesday, the anticipation will be felt as keenly all over the world. The Premier League's overseas television rights deals for the 2019-2022 three-season cycle hit a record $5.3 billion and another £2 billion, a deal that has already been struck for Scandinavian rights between 2022 and 2028. That income will be all the more welcome. However, without the atmosphere generated by baying fans, the Premier League's appeal may be diminished in football's new normal. And Dries Mertens fired Napoli to the Italian Cup final after netting the goal which gave his side a 2-1 aggregate semi-final win over Inter Milan and made him the club's all-time top scorer. Napoli will face Juventus in Wednesday's final in Rome thanks to Belgian forward Mertens, who slotted home his 122nd goal for Napoli 4 minutes before halftime to make the
Brings us to the end of our bulletin this hour. Many thanks for watching. You want to stay tuned for The Trend, which will be coming up shortly after this bulletin. My name is Zainab Ismail once again, and see you later on as we take a look at the briefing from the Ministry of Health with regards to the COVID-19 pandemic in the country. Stay with us.